Every man feels it long before he understands it. You're with her, and something in her energy isn't the same anymore. She's not angry, she's not emotional, she's not begging for anything. She's just cold. Her tone loses softness. Her eyes lose spark. Her replies get shorter. Her patience disappears. Her effort dries up. Her interest feels forced. And you know something is wrong, but you pretend it isn't. Because if you acknowledge it, you have to face the hardest truth a man can hear. She doesn't respect you the way she used to. Not because she met someone else. Not because she suddenly stopped caring. Not because she woke up one morning and decided to change. Respect doesn't die in one moment. Respect dies quietly. In the blind spots you refuse to confront. In the moments you abandon yourself. In the small ways you choose comfort over standards. In the emotional reactions you can't control. In the fear you have of losing her. Women don't follow fear.
Women don't admire fear. Women don't respect fear. And when a woman senses that fear inside you, she instinctively steps back. Not out of cruelty, but out of biology. She can feel when you've stopped being the grounded, self-directed, disciplined man she once admired. She can feel when your emotional stability has been replaced with insecurity. She can feel when your purpose shrinks and she becomes the center of your world. A woman doesn't lose respect because she's complicated. She loses respect because you stopped being who you were when she chose you. Today, we're breaking this down into two parts. Why women stop respecting you. How to rebuild yourself into a man who commands respect without demanding it. Let's get into the truth most men avoid. Women don't lose respect logically. They lose respect instinctively. There's no speech, no warning, no conversation. Her nervous system changes the way it sees you. And once that internal switch flips, her behavior follows instantly. Here's exactly why it happens. 1. You become emotionally dependent on her reactions. A woman loses respect when she realizes her mood controls your identity. If she becomes cold, you panic. If she pulls away, you chase. If she tests you, you fold. If she gets silent, you break down emotionally. Your self-worth rises and falls based on her behavior. This makes you predictable, reactive, emotionally weak. Women are biologically wired to respect men who remain centered, men who don't lose themselves in the relationship. When she becomes the emotional leader, she loses respect for you automatically. 2. You stop leading yourself. You were disciplined in the beginning. You had a mission. You had direction. You had self-control. You had standards. She admired that. But slowly, you shifted. You got comfortable. You neglected your goals. You made her the priority. You became softer. Stopped improving. You started orbiting her. She went from respecting the man on a mission to pitying the man who abandoned his mission for her comfort. Women don't respect men who revolve around them. Women respect men who revolve around their purpose. 3. You let disrespect slide. This is where most men collapse completely. A woman disrespects you in small ways. Watitude, ignoring messages, laking, sarcasm, oldness, aggressiveness, boundaries being crossed. And what do most men do? They tolerate it. They explain it away. They reassure her. They try harder. They reward her disrespect with more effort. You think you're being understanding. She reads it as, this man has no backbone. Women cannot respect men who cannot protect their standards. 4.
You over-explain and over-talk. When a man feels insecure, he tries to fix everything with words. But words are cheap. Words are emotional leakage. Words reveal fear. When you explain yourself excessively, you announce insecurity. When you justify yourself, you announce guilt. When you over-communicate your feelings, you announce emotional dependence. Women respect decisive action, not emotional essays. 5. You become predictable in weakness, not strength. Predictability kills attraction, but not all predictability, only one type. Predictable weakness, predictable neediness, predictable emotional chaos, predictable apologies, predictable forgiveness, predictable availability, predictable panic. She knows exactly what to expect. If she pulls away, you chase. If she disrespects, you explain. If she ignores, you double text. If she provokes, you react. If she tests, you crumble. Respect dies when she can control your emotional state with one behavior shift. 6. You fear losing her more than losing yourself. This is the ultimate respect killer. Women can sense when a man is terrified of losing them. It leaks through your tone, your behavior, your reactions. A man who fears loss becomes problem-solved, claisingy, over-accommodating, glamourologetic, overly emotional, sacrificing, approval-seeking, stable, attractment. A woman cannot respect a man who sees her as his emotional oxygen. Once she feels that dependency, respect collapses permanently unless you change. 7. You stop being the man she fell for. She didn't fall for the man who chases. She didn't fall for the man who explains himself. She didn't fall for the man who fears silence. She didn't fall for the man who abandons his mission. She fell for the man who, firm, ledge himself, disdisciplined, had mystery, had ambition, had standards, had emotional control, had selective, didn't crumble under pressure, didn't treat her like a lifeline. Respect dies when you stop being him. Respect returns when you become him again. And that brings us to the solution. Here's the truth. You cannot talk your way back into respect. You cannot negotiate your way into it. You cannot perform your way into it. Respect comes from identity, not effort. Here's how you rebuild it properly. Rebuild your mission. Make your life bigger than her. The man she respects is the man who is building something. Your mission must return to the center of your life. Your goals, your discipline, your purpose, your evolution. A man on his path doesn't need respect. He generates it. Women follow men who move with direction. 2. Become emotionally grounded again. Your emotional containment is your masculine authority. From now on, no reacting to her moods. No chasing after distance. No explaining your anxiety. No emotional outbursts. No trying to win her affection back. Incarcerate for attention. Be calm. Be focused. Be in control of you. A woman respects emotional stability because emotional stability is leadership. 3. Reinforce boundaries through action. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is you removing yourself, you going silent, you disengaging, you not tolerating disrespect. Which is much more funny, just not coming from me tens. A boundary is not a boundary. A boundary is not a speech. 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 A boundary is not a speech.
A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is not a speech. You removing yourself. Not tolerating disrespect. You holding your standard calmly. You don't get emotional. You don't lecture. You don't argue. You simply stop rewarding the behavior. Respect grows instantly. 4. Reintroduce space and independence. Space is not a game. Space is a recalibration. Space forces her to feel your absence. Space resets her entitlement. Space rebuilds polarity. Space reminds her you're not dependent. Space gives her room to reflect. Silence restores dominance. Distance restores clarity. A man who doesn't chase is a man she instinctively respects. Before, become willing to walk away. This is the core. A woman cannot respect a man who cannot survive without her. She cannot respect a man who is scared to lose her. She cannot respect a man who tolerates disrespect. She cannot respect a man who abandons himself. But when she senses that you will walk away rather than betray your standards, her entire nervous system shifts. Respect returns instantly, not because she's impressed, but because she feels your strength again. 6. Rebuild the man she respected in the first place. She respected the version of you that was homeland, ground him, ambitious, independent, subotional controlled, mishing ding. Predictable in growth, consistent in identity. Become him again, not watch how quickly respect returns. Not because you asked for it, but because you became the kind of man who doesn't need it. This is the relentless man. If this message hit you, if it exposed the patterns you've been avoiding, don't just watch and scroll away. Drop a like, leave a comment, and hit subscribe so you never miss another lesson. Men aren't born strong. They're built through discipline, clarity, and self-respect. Stay focused. Stay grounded. Stay relentless.